The year is 2026. The world stands on the edge of its greatest crisis. For decades, humanity has lived under the shadow of nuclear weapons, machines of destruction, capable of ending civilization in less than an hour. The Cold War may have ended, but the weapons remained. Modernized, hidden in silos, submarines and mobile launchers, waiting for the day they might be unleashed. Now tensions between the world's superpowers are rising once again. The United States, Russia and China stand locked in disputes over territory, resources and dominance. Cyber attacks cripple economies. Military drills escalate into confrontations. And satellite intelligence warns of troop movements in disputed regions. Every act of aggression brings the world closer to a catastrophic mistake. History has already shown us how fragile peace can be. During the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, the world came within a hair's breadth of nuclear war. In the 1980s, false alarms, triggered by computer glitches, nearly convinced leaders that enemy missiles were incoming. Humanity survived those moments only because a handful of individuals chose restraint over retaliation. But what happens if, in 2026, fear and paranoia take control instead? Imagine a sudden flashpoint, a naval skirmish in the South China Sea, a fighter jet shot down, or a missile test misinterpreted as an attack. World leaders issue ultimatums, demanding immediate withdrawal and threatening retaliation. News outlets around the globe broadcast alarming headlines. Social media explodes with speculation. And deep inside underground bunkers, military officials activate nuclear protocols. This is the terrifying reality of the nuclear age. Decisions are made in minutes. A single radar warning or a satellite misreading could trigger a retaliatory strike. Leaders know that hesitation could mean total destruction, but rushing to respond could unleash the very apocalypse they fear. In an age of instant communication and automated defense systems, the margin for error has nearly vanished. The spark of nuclear war might not even come from an intentional strike. It could be an accident, a malfunctioning satellite, a cyber attack creating false warnings, or a rogue commander misinterpreting orders. Any one of these could set in motion a chain of events that no one could stop. In 2026, humanity faces a deadly paradox. Nations claim nuclear weapons are a deterrent, a guarantee of peace through fear. Yet the very existence of these weapons ensures that peace is fragile, temporary and uncertain. Civilization now lives in the shadow of an abyss, where one wrong move could transform our planet into a battlefield of fire and ash. The moment the world had feared for decades has arrived. What began as a spark of tension has erupted into an inferno of global conflict. Diplomacy has failed. Red phones have gone silent. The world now waits for the sound of missiles, not words. At 17 GMT, military satellites detect unusual movements. Dozens of intercontinental ballistic missiles, long kept in underground. Silos are being armed. Operators in command centers watch their screens as warnings flash red. The unthinkable is now reality. A nation has chosen to strike first. In nuclear strategy, this is called the first strike doctrine. The idea is brutal. Launch fast, launch hard, and destroy the enemy's ability to respond before they can even press their own buttons. It is a high-stakes gamble, one that has no winners. Orders are confirmed. Encrypted launch codes are transmitted. Across barren landscapes, enormous steel doors slide open, revealing the monsters of war hidden below. In the darkness, a rumble begins. Fire erupts. Missiles tear through the sky like blazing spears, each carrying destruction greater than thousands of Hiroshimas. The world's deadliest weapons are now airborne. In orbit above Earth, satellites track the fiery trails. Commanders draw red lines across glowing maps, marking the trajectories. The targets are unmistakable: major cities, airfields, nuclear arsenals, communication hubs. Within these places live millions of ordinary people, families waking up, children on their way to school, completely unaware that the countdown to their last sunrise has begun. 20 minutes 15:10 at unimaginable speeds. The warheads cross oceans and continents. For the rest of the world, life continues in fragile ignorance. A mother makes breakfast. Workers step onto buses. Teenagers check their phones. All while shadows of annihilation race silently overhead. Then, impact. A blinding white light swallows the horizon. Entire city blocks vanish in a fraction of a second. Skyscrapers crumble like sandcastles. Rivers boil. Bridges twist and collapse. Human beings near the blast are erased instantly. No trace left behind. Further away, the wave of heat ignites forests, homes, and vehicles. Firestorms roar across neighborhoods, merging into infernos that consume everything. And yet this is only the opening act. Underground, leaders face an impossible choice. Retaliate immediately, or surrender and risk total destruction. In hardened bunkers, generals whisper over glowing maps. Submarines beneath the oceans receive coded messages. Fighter jets roar into the night sky. The world has reached the edge of no return. The first strike was meant to cripple the enemy. Instead, it has awakened them. Retaliation is inevitable. The cycle of fire has only begun. And as mushroom clouds rise one after another, humanity realizes survival is no longer guaranteed. The first strike was meant to end the war before it began. But instead, it has ignited a global inferno. Within minutes of the initial detonations, retaliation orders sweep across continents. Submarines hidden in the depths of the oceans launch their payloads. Dozens of warheads rise from beneath the waves, carrying fire to every corner of the globe. Fighter jets scramble into the skies, their pilots fully aware that their mission may be their last. NATO invokes Article 5. Russia responds with full mobilization. China activates its strategic forces. India and Pakistan, long-standing rivals, enter their own cycle of launches. Alliances collapse, trust evaporates, and the line between friend and enemy disappears. Humanity is no longer fighting a war between nations, it is fighting a war against itself. In major capitals, sirens scream as panic erupts. Highways jam with cars, families desperate to escape. But there is no escape. The missiles are too fast, the targets too many. Skies once filled with clouds are now streaked with fire. One by one, cities that once glowed with life become lifeless craters of ash and smoke. The earth itself begins to change. Firestorms feed on oxygen, drawing the very breath from the atmosphere. The blasts ignite forests, grasslands, and fuel reserves, creating towering columns of black soot that rise into the stratosphere. Sunlight dims, the blue sky turns a sickly red, then a suffocating black. Scientists call it nuclear winter. The temperature begins to plummet. Crops fail, rivers freeze. Even those who survived the initial blasts now face hunger, radiation, and disease. Hospitals collapse under impossible strain. Medicines run out. The global economy vanishes overnight. Survivors huddle in basements, underground stations, and makeshift shelters. Some cling to radios, listening to fractured broadcasts, pleas for peace, desperate calls for help, or the chilling silence of stations that will never transmit again. Meanwhile, governments fracture. Some leaders vanish into deep bunkers, disconnected from the world above. Others perish in the very strikes they ordered. What remains of civilization is fragmented, leaderless, and lost. Gangs form in the ruins of cities, fighting over scraps of food, clean water, and medicine. And yet, amid the chaos, one truth becomes clear. There are no victors. No nation stands taller than another. Borders become meaningless when the planet itself is dying. Humanity, for the first time in history, faces extinction not from nature, but from its own hand. As the weeks turn into months, the silence grows heavier. No hum of electricity, no laughter of children, no sound of civilization. Only the wind, carrying the ashes of a world that once dreamed of progress. This is not just the aftermath of war, it is the unraveling of human history. And if the survivors look to the horizon for hope, they find only shadows. Because once the fire is unleashed, there is no turning back.